Hey everybody, so welcome to this week's performance talk. Today is going to be a little bit more Olympic weightlifting based. I recently got back from a 10-day trip in Detroit, which was a full-blown Olympic Weightlifting Nationals week event. It started with youth nationals, moved right into juniors and the under 25 universities, and then right into senior nationals. So it was a long week of weightlifting, coaching, and so we thought that it would be a really good idea to kind of talk about that week leading up to a meet and how athletes need to prepare, things that they should be doing as far as training, mental preparation, weight cuts, and things like that, and then what they can kind of expect on the day of their meet as well. Meet preps can range from a different number of weeks depending on where an athlete is in their training cycle, depending on when their last competition was, if they had to hit a qualifier in order to get onto the national stage. So for the sake of this, we're going to talk about what to expect the week of the meet. So for us with ECG, we tend to have our last heavy days on essentially that end of the second to last week before your competition. So that final week leading into competition is going to be a strong taper where you are sticking with the snatch and the clean and jerk. One day you'll have some heavier clean pulls in there. Another day you'll have some front squats in there, but every single day you're going to snatch and you're going to clean and jerk to allow you to prepare yourself for competition. So prior to that, we have one of our last heavy snatch days and heavy clean and jerk days to kind of get a final number ramp up, see what the hopeful expectations are of the athlete based on those heavier lifts that they're going to hit 2 weeks out.
Okay, and I guess before we kind of dive into this, can you real quick, Nicole, kind of give a really small rundown of how a typical meet day would be?
Sure. Yeah. So lifting, it's a little bit different than powerlifting. I feel like a lot of people are more familiar with the way a powerlifting meet is run. So with Olympic weightlifting, you weigh in 2 hours before your session. There's no opportunity to weigh in the day before or anything like that. So if your session starts at 8 a.m., then you are expected to weigh in at 6 a.m. And you have a window of an hour to make weight, essentially. So if you show up at 6 a.m. and you step on the scale and you're slightly over, then you have a little bit of time to do whatever you need to do to try to get back on that scale and make weight before that hour cutoff. After that, if you've made weight, then hopefully you were able to eat something prior to weighing in. If not, then that's the time to go and find something to eat. So we always recommend that our athletes have an idea of where they want to eat or the kind of food that they want to have. So that way somebody can go and get it for them. So they're not running around trying to do that after they've weighed in. We want them to be as prepared as possible to just hang out at the meet site, whether it's a convention center or a local gym, and just kind of chill. That's their time to refuel, drink water, get some electrolytes in you, because chances are you've been limiting your water intake in order to make weight. So replenishing all of those fluids and all of those nutrients to allow yourself to have enough time to then digest, so that way you can start warming up and preparing for the session to actually start. A lot of athletes will actually ask, what time should I start warming up and when should I start lifting and things like that. And it's a little tough because as a coach, we can't really tell you that exact time frame until we see the start list come out and see where people are going to be opening their snatch at. So we typically will recommend being ready to go about 30 minutes before the session starts. And what that means is having eaten all of your food, having gotten yourself, mentally just relaxed and ready to go. And then you can start doing some more movement prep stuff. So within that 30 minutes before the meet actually starts, that's the time when you're going to start mobilizing anything that might need to be mobilized, doing some band work, getting the core turned on, things like that you may do as a, movement prep warm up throughout your time in the gym. And then once we can start to see where that start list is going to fall, then we can get a count and allow our athletes to start taking a barbell and taking their actual warm-up attempts. So in a meet itself, you're going to start, for those that don't know, you're going to start with the snatch. Everybody does 3 attempts of the snatch, make or miss, and then there's a 10-minute clock in between the snatch and the clean and jerk, and then everything follows along. Where it differs from powerlifting is the weight on the bar will never go down. So if I'm opening my snatch at 60 kilos and there's somebody else in the section opening their snatch at 80 kilos, I'm going to take all 3 of my attempts before they've even gone out on the platform for their first attempt, because my jumps will more than likely, because I'm a smaller female, be somewhere between 2 to 3 kilos per each attempt. That varies among coaches, and a lot of times, like you'll see, the bigger guys, even just guys in general, they'll make closer to 5 kilo jumps. But that is also dependent upon age, longevity in the sport, competition experience, things like that as well. But make or miss 3 attempts, the weight on the bar never lowers.
Right. And I guess what's your plan going in, even if it's like a beginner or kind of more of an elite lifter? How do you kind of select which weight attempts should be the most appropriate?
Sure. So we actually joked around about this a lot in Detroit about the East Coast Gold Way. So our goal is to make lifts. We're going out there to make lifts. We want to give our athletes the best opportunity to be successful on the platform and have a good meet and a good experience to allow them to then go on and have some of those more like crazy attempt moments that might be necessary if it comes to making either an international team or even getting on the podium and winning a medal. So for beginners, the focus is to make reps, make lifts. Depending on the person and how their kind of mental game is, we may open a little bit lighter, especially in the snatch, because that first snatch is always so nerve-wracking. And then once they get on the board, it kind of everything settles down and they can kind of get in their groove. So we may open somewhere around 85%, but ideally we like to open around 90 to 92% of their max lift. But a lot of that is also dependent on the consistency. If their 90% isn't consistent in the gym, then that's going to be something we're going to stay away from. We want that opener to be a strong, consistent number that they know on any given day they can make that lift. If they don't, that's okay. They come back, make an adjustment and hit it on the second, but the goal is for them to be successful on that first attempt. And then from there, we build a big phrase that a lot of people say is snatch what you can, clean and jerk what you must. And so going in, having a good snatch session, and then knowing that you may have to, surpass numbers that you've even hit if you're trying to get onto the podium or make an international team. And so you're going to just throw it on there and go for broke.
Okay. And I mean, I'm switching back to, I guess, going to the guys and girls who just got into the sport and never competed at all. You as a coach, do you feel like there's a certain comfort level with your athletes who first dive into the sport to start competing? Like, do you have like all these, checklists of like, okay, I think you can, compete or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is, especially for local meets, go and have fun. There's no minimum entry total to compete at the local level. So it's nice in that sense that everybody that competes on the national stage at least has one meet under their belt if they have to qualify. So in that sense, whether you're going to qualify for nationals or not, if you enjoy the sport and you have fun, compete, give it a try. The worst thing that could happen is you absolutely hate it, but you love training in the gym and you continue to do that. I found that 9 times out of 10, anybody that competes that is, dedicated themselves to training in Olympic weightlifting loves it. It's an adrenaline rush. It's an excitement. There's a camaraderie in the back of the training hall or the warm-up area when you're there with your other teammates and your coaches, and you're seeing, how the board is trickling down and how changes are being made. Like, it's an exciting feeling. So just going and dipping your toe in the water just to see, I recommend that for everybody. You're not going to know unless you try it. And then as far as being on the national stage, that's when things get a little bit more serious. And so if it's an athlete that's competing at nationals for the first time, as a coach, I'm spending a lot of our training time together talking about what they can expect, what might be different from a local meet versus a national meet, and work on, I spent a lot of time, especially with like my junior national lifter. This was her first nationals. And so we spent a lot of time discussing what her openers were going to be and what we would like them to be. So that way, when she was training, she could mentally kind of prepare herself. Okay, this is going to be my opener for the snatch. I know I can make this, and kind of getting that mind frame and mindset together. So that way, when she stepped on stage, there wasn't a hesitation as to whether or not she could make that lift. So
I guess, yeah. So like with the approaching meet day, again, with that, we're talking about the whole week, I guess what is to be expected and how your body's supposed to feel like?
Your body should feel like trash. The beginning of that week, your body's going to feel like trash. You just finished anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks of some pretty heavy, dense training, focused more on the lifts themselves, but especially ending with those 2 heavier snatch and clean and jerk days, your body is going to embrace that taper. We typically go from singles at about 85% with some pulls at 90. And then we'll have a 75% day in there and 80% day in there. And then that final day before the meet, you're literally snatching and clean and jerking 70%. And that's to just move and stay mobile. By that point, your body starts to feel a little bit better, depending on where you are in your weight cut. But the beginning of that week, expect to feel a little bit like garbage, and really focus on the recovery side of it. That's when I typically suggest, getting in Normatec boots, taking an Epsom salt bath, stretching, yoga, massage. Yep. Mani-pedis, those are big ones. One of the biggest things that I talk about with a lot of my female athletes is look good, feel good, lift good. If you're a girl, whatever. It's true though. If you're a girl and you like your hair a certain way, put your hair in a certain way. If you want to wear a bow in your hair, wear a damn bow in your hair. Whatever you need to do to make yourself feel like you are the shit on the platform, do that because it matters.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess the last piece to kind of bring this all together, how would you kind of tell your athletes to, I guess, think or be in a positive mind frame? Because I'm sure it's all like crazy shit. They have second thoughts, all these doubts and all that. Like, how do you kind of get over that?
It's super mental. So there's a couple of different ways. Visualization is a big key. So spending some time literally just sitting with your eyes closed and visualize yourself making lifts and visualize the entire thing from the minute you walk up to the bar to your setup. You'll notice every lifter has their own specific way that they set up at the bar before they lift. The good ones, the great ones, do the same exact thing every single time, whether it's 50% on the bar or 110% on the bar. Their setup is meticulous and it's exactly the same. So having that visualization of exactly what you're going to do when you set up to seeing yourself make the lift and stand up with it and complete it. And you run that over and over and over in your head. The other thing, I actually did this with one of my youth lifters. She was starting to get into her head about her 50 kilo snatch and was missing it a couple of times. And she kept saying, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And so about 2 weeks out, I told her that, I see Rudy, about 2 weeks out, I told her that I wanted her to just write down in a notebook, I will hit 50 kilos at nationals, or I will snatch 50 kilos at nationals, and say it over and over and over again. And by the time we got there, she was confident in herself to be able to do that. Sometimes it's as simple as telling yourself what you want, and as cheesy as it sounds, speaking it into the universe, but you're mentally giving yourself the tools to believe that you can do it as you tell yourself over and over again that you're going to do it. And there's a huge factor into that.
Mind Gym is a phenomenal book that talks about that in depth. Have you ever read that?
I've not, no.
That's a really, really good book. It's an easy read.
Yep.
But it goes into all the positive affirmations, daily practices, mindfulness, all that shit. It's awesome.
Yep.
Really good book.
The other thing, and it seems simple, but it's interesting. Coaches cueing and the way that they phrase their cues and the way that the athletes respond to them is a big factor. So we had a lifter one time, instead of thinking to push long in her legs, she would tell herself, don't pull too early. But all she would hear is pull too early. And she would pull too early every time. The minute she rearranged the words in her head and told herself push longer, that's when she started to really find that drive of the bar and getting up into triple extension. So, talking to them about how they phrase certain things in their head is a big factor too.